to the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we look at movies we love, break them apart, to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my friend, computer hacker, Hawaiian shirt wearer, don't get cheap on me now, and co-host.
You didn't say the magic word, Alex Dandino.
There you go, Nedry. I like it.
Had to be done.
All right, guys. As you know, this is the finale of the Pod Edits Genetics Month. We're ending on not only the greatest tale of genetic alteration, but the movie that made me want to be involved with the movie business. This was probably my favorite movie for the longest stretch of my life, right? Like when I remember the day seeing this in the theater. I remember being changed forever after it. That movie, of course, is Jurassic Park. Before we get started, guys, please take a second right now, this second, please. Leave us a rating and review wherever you find the pod, especially on Apple Podcast app. That helps us out enormously. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's Nerd Alchemist, plural with an S at the end. And you can reach us on any social media that you guys are on. We do a lot of Twitter, at Film Alchemist and the number 1. You can also email the show, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com, with your suggestions on movies you'd like to hear us cover, themes for a whole month, double features, new movies you'd like to hear someone talk about, guests to be on the show, anything. We want to talk about the movies you want to hear us talk about, obviously. That is enough for business. That's enough business, guys. Jurassic Park, the movie that broke my brain. When I left the theater seeing Jurassic Park, I was but a boy. I was a young boy, and this movie had every fucking thing to me. And I remember I told my friend Dan this on his podcast, Dan Hamamura. I didn't know anything about movies as a business. I didn't know how to do any of the things I saw on that screen. But all I knew, like I didn't come out of that movie and say I wanted to be a director. I wanted to somehow become the primordial essence of Jurassic Park. I wanted that much magic to be a part of my life and soul. And to be fair, this is one of those movies I don't think has ever lost shine to me, right? There are a couple things that are weird.
No.
And the older you get and you start learning about how they make movies, you're like, that's a weird choice, but okay. This movie has just never lost a step with me.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. Like my parents were a little stricter with me and they wouldn't let me go see it in the theater. And then they rented it for me and it blew my fucking brain out of my skull. It was the craziest thing. And I was enamored, and I agree. Like it's definitely one of those watershed movies. It's one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. But like it's one of those watershed moment movies where I watched it and I was like, holy shit, that's real. That has to be real, right? It looks so real. And I'll say this, like, there are movies that came out after this that have had CGI in them that looks just terrible now. This movie still has CGI that looks realer than a lot of movies that have come out in recent years. Yeah. I still feel the realness coming from the screen. And I think that's like, it's not just, and that is not coming from rose-colored, nostalgia-driven glasses either. That's coming from somebody who, like, I sit there and watch this movie and I'm floored by it. Every time I can quote it, I can talk along with the movie, I can literally sit there and enjoy this the same way I did when I was 7 years old watching this movie again. Like, it is impeccable.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those. I feel like this movie is the Jaws of our generation, mine and yours. Because the way I think of this movie is how, and it is funny too that it's Spielberg again, kind of re-getting to do the monsters. Where this one, it's like instead of being hidden under the water and intrigue, right? This is the dinosaurs are here in your fucking face, and it still intrigues. It's so fucking magical, right? The iconic scene that has just been gifted over and over and over again and memed to death is everyone in the cars when the characters and the actors are seeing the dinosaurs for the first time. And they just had childlike awe and wonder. And I feel like that's how I am. I was watching it tonight with my kids, right? My kids have seen all of these a lot. And I'm a bit ashamed to say, it's not ashamed. They're kids, man. What do they know? But my son Hunter he really only likes Jurassic Park 3 because it has a Spinosaurus and pterodactyl. And I'm like, hey, all right, you just like wildly inferior movies.
Yeah, but your kid's a dinosaur junkie. That's his thing.
I'll tell you the truth. I think Jurassic Park 3 is better than Jurassic Park 2. You can fight me. At me. It's fine. But here, what I will say, though, man, that scene of them just looking, right? Oh, my God. And especially that it's Grant, the most curmudgeon-y protagonist in my young movie life to that time. I was like, man, this guy sucks. He's like your worst uncle. And you're like, I'm going to spend a whole dinosaur adventure with this motherfucker? And then you see him break when he sees that dinosaur, and he runs up, and he's overwhelmed by the joy of it all. That's how I feel. I was watching it tonight with the kids, and that just when the Universal sign comes up and it's like, oh, you're just like it sends chills down my spine still to this day. And just that opening of, it's coming through the trees. There's an eye of a monster, right? And it's just these everyday men fighting against this tidal wave of science and monstrosity that's coming. Muldoon or Moldry, he's holding the hand and it slips through. That's, it's over for us.
Shoot her!
Clever.
Shoot her!
Clever girl. Yeah. Hey, by the way, if you were a clever boy, you need some bigger shorts. It's a jungle out there. Unacceptable. I don't care what bushwhacking you're doing.
It's all right. He had
pants.
No, it's fine. He had the very tall socks. It all worked out.
Softball rules. Slow pitch softball uniform for Moldry or Muldoon. I think his name's Muldoon. But anyway, that whole opening scene, I am just gobsmacked by still to this day. It's so
I don't know if I don't know what you think, but I feel like, again, this is like the Spielbergness of it all. Like Jaws is a great example of it happening first. Like Jaws in the first scene tells you everything you ever need to know about what to expect from this movie. And Jurassic Park is no different. Within the first 5 minutes, we all know what to expect from this movie, which is that Mother Nature, no matter how often we fuck with it, no matter how often we try to maintain our balance with it, always wins. And that to me is the best part about the movie. Is I, even as a young 7-year-old kid sitting in front of my TV, knew that the minute that happened, I'm like, oh my God. Like, and I was young enough where I had not read the book, but I was like, oh my God, there's no way this is going to work out well. And obviously I had seen trailers and shit like that, but nevertheless, I was still totally engaged, man, because I had to see how it all worked out.
But we all had coloring books, and we're like, oh, they must not have ever colored the T-Rex. That guy's hardcore. Like, even as kids, you're like, yeah, don't mess with that thing. No, it is so funny you mentioned the books, because this was one of the first. That was like my thing. I was kind of a weird like loner kid, but I had a really advanced reading level. And so Jurassic Park I read young, and it was
because of the we found out this month it was because of the charter behavioral stuff.
The charter behavioral, yeah. I used to have to do. Don't charter me, bro.
Call back.
Don't charter me in front of the
Call
whole.
back.
If any audience member knows what charter mental health services were, now I'm chartered. Don't out me, dude.
First off, it's charter behavioral health, and also it's a callback to a previous episode.
Well, I'm glad my trauma is used for your callback comedy there, Carrot Top. Thanks, buddy. my emotional abuse by my father who left becomes the prop for your chuckles. Thanks, man. But no, anywho, so I read the book, and I remember reading it, and you're just like, wow, I do not understand a lot of this. This is really intense. But then I remember feverishly trying to finish Lost World before that movie came out so I could go to the theater. And we didn't go see it till Sunday because they hadn't finished the book yet. So I was really into Jurassic Park. I think one of the things, too, one of the reasons that this movie is exceptional to me as well, this is the thing. It's hard to discuss this movie because it's literally just what's great about it. All the actors, all the characters, the score, the effects work. I mean, it's just an amazing movie across the board. The thing that really struck me today was how solid the character work is. And so right off the bat, every character we get introduced to feels so absolutely lived in fast.
Yeah. That is, I think, the real strength of the movie, and that is the thing that carries us through. Because, look, there are dazzling effects, of course. It's an absolute technical achievement. But from the jump, and I was actually watching it this afternoon with my wife and my kid. And, like, that helicopter scene, the helicopter
Yes.
ride in and of itself, I'm telling you right now, it is the seatbelt scene. The seatbelts tell you everything you need to know about every single character. It's Sadler, everything happens, like she puts on the seatbelt. She's quick and ready. You see Ian Malcolm slide his seatbelt over he's like, oh yeah, I got this, no worries. Grant, he finds two female ends he's like, I don't know what to do. Makeshift, cinches himself in. Like that, to me, that when I was a kid, I'm like, that is like the movie right there. These are these characters right there. And that's how you know that these characters will make it through this movie, for one. But also, that's how they'll react to literally everything that happens to them in the movie. It's an amazing scene.
The seatbelt moment to me has always stuck out to me. And again, for even a young kid, because I was the same way, that scene meant a lot to me. And it's weird that's the kind. I've always thought that's Spielberg's greatest talent, more than he is obviously a master of big spectacle, fun for everyone kind of movies, right? But what I think Spielberg has always been the master of is making, he does really well with family. Like 80s families, it felt like he really nailed, right? When you watch E.T., that feels like a real family in that house, right? Even movies he produced, like The Goonies, you're like, yes, that feels like a real, and that was always his great gift. And I think he does that again with, like, Jaws. I think that's what sets Jaws apart, is that world is so absolutely real in what he crafts. And that is always more important to a Spielberg
100%.
journey than the big spectacle that we go upon, right? And I think this movie does such, like, I was laughing today, the Nedry line, it absolutely cracked me up, because here's this guy who makes all this money. He gets handed $750,000 in a suitcase on this little island, right? And then he just looks at Dodson and does the, don't get cheap on me now, Dodson. I was like, that so perfectly sums up Dennis Nedry to me. You immediately are in. It's brilliant.
Well, and that's the Spielberg touch to me, and that's the thing that always makes watching Spielberg movies so fascinating, so wonderful. And I mean, I was in film school. I went through a time where I was like, oh, maybe Spielberg is not the greatest filmmaker. Never have had that problem since I've gotten out of film school. Like, everybody has that moment where you're like, is Spielberg just making blockbusters? Yes, he is. You know why? Because he's one of the greatest fucking directors in existence. But it's that kind of stuff, the little iconography per character that he gives you and lets you just ingest very, very subliminally. Because when we're kids, you don't pick up on certain things, but that seatbelt scene and Nedry himself on the island in Costa Rica, like that, or not on the island, Costa Rica's not an island, but in the little bodega in Costa Rica, that to me, you're right. Like, that's the iconography, and that's the stuff that those are little breadcrumbs Steven Spielberg leaves for you, so that when you get to the big action and the big set pieces, you're not forgetting anything, because nothing's more important than these characters as they go through this journey. And that's who you're grafting onto. And that's what makes Jurassic Park so impressive and so beautiful, is that amidst all this technical achievement, you're still wondering, is Ian Malcolm's exploded leg going to make it? Or is he going to be
or
done?
more like
what's going to happen?
Is Ian Malcolm's leg injury an excuse to cut his pants off so he can keep making passes at people? Fucking creep. But no, this is one of the brilliant things about the film to me, is as I've gotten older, what matters less and less to me, right, is the scenes with the dinosaurs, weirdly enough, because that's what is the big hook when you're a kid, is this fun dinosaur adventure. But if you go back and watch the movie, the best dinosaur scenes are really tempered by those people, right? It's the weird movie where when Goldblum reaches up and, excuse me, you are planning on having dinosaurs on your dinosaur tour. That's what you probably are thinking about the movie at times when you're young, but that doesn't matter, because sitting there watching Dr. Malcolm explain chaos theory with the water is just as captivating as the T-Rex to me.
Totally. I mean,
here's a great example, even the Triceratops scene, right? The Triceratops scene, instead of seeing this majestic beast in action, just seeing them walk up and seeing this laid low dinosaur, watching them react, watching Grant get expanded on the stomach, Ellie jumping into the shit, Malcolm trying to be cool but overwhelmed, right? Like it all, it's just real. Like Timmy chasing him after he said hold back in case they're. That's the stuff with the character. Like I was all struck by the T-Rex scene today. Again, the weirdest thing about the T-Rex scene is that the geography they lay out of that segment of the pen makes no sense. Because there's a little goat platform, the T-Rex is walking out, and next thing you know, Grant is literally doing a Van Helsing rope to rope in a waterfall with the van coming down. You're like, what is happening here? But before that, the actual T-Rex scene is just one of the most masterfully laid out scenes I've ever seen.
Yes. I mean, it's so well paced. I want to go back like real quick because one of my all-time favorite scenes, and it started when I was a kid because I wasn't smart enough to understand what was happening. But the lunch scene where they all literally sit there and debate the ethics of what has been done on this place. Might be one of the most fascinating scenes in the movie because it lays out so quickly and so effortlessly. It gives all these actors great room to like do the thing that they're very good at. Like, again, I think that fucking Sam Neill is just an incredible actor. Like Sam Neill's so wonderful as like this stoic guy who is literally, this is a guy who was digging up dinosaur bones 24 hours ago. And now he's literally faced with the very thing live in the flesh. He has no idea how to comprehend. Same with Sattler.
Yeah.
And
you know why he's not more overwhelmed, though? I don't know if you realize this. What is Dr. Grant on the island to do, right? He's essentially an insurance adjuster. Sam Neill in this movie... Well, no,
that's exactly what it is.
No. Sam Neill in this movie is simply stuck in another Sutter Kane novel.
I know what you're going to say.
Sam Neill reads Sutter Kane. He's stuck in a Sutter Kane.
That was not what I was expecting you to say. I thought you were just going to say, like, Sam Neill's literally there to torpedo the entire place so he can make sure he can keep a job. That's pretty much his life.
No, there's a way to go back and look at Sam Neill's work because he's kind of the Scream King, right? Like, he's in a lot of horror movies. You're like, every one of his movies could be a Sutter Kane novel. Sam Neill just really got trapped in this very meta movie, and he's still hashing it out.
But the lunch scene gives us this, and again, like Jeff Goldblum gives like just one of the all-timers for me as far as like monologues go. He argues and again, when I was younger, I didn't really understand. As I got older and I watched it over and over again, I realized it's like it's really my favorite scene in the movie where he so effortlessly argues the ethics of like what's been done here. And like, he sits there and just lays it out. He's like, guys, what's been done here is not just wrong. It's like, it's not ethically wrong. It is in the face of you've pissed in the eye of Mother Nature.
No, he uses the swanky like hipster phrase of, I consider it the rape of the natural world.
He goes, well, yeah, would you guys consider Discovery? I consider the rape of the natural world.
I will say this, Dr. Ian
what's wrong
Malcolm.
With Discovery? Oh, what's so great about Discovery?
Yes.
Discovery is a violent, vicious act.
Penetrative act, he said.
It's all these great beats. And again, like when I was younger, like my dad's a franchise attorney. So when I was younger, the only thing I pulled from it was when Hammond's like, amazing. I bring all you people here to defend me, and the only person I have here defending me is the blood-sucking lawyer. And I remember, like, nudging my dad, like, that's you, Dad. You're a lawyer.
Hey,
not
Dad, you're a
understanding
piece
what
of
was
shit,
actually
aren't you,
going
pal?
on.
I'm going to dump in your briefcase later,
Yeah,
Pops.
I was like...
No, it's an incredible
that
scene.
Was like...
But, again, I will say this. Dr. Ian Malcolm
an incredible scene.
Is one of my top 10 favorite movie characters ever. But again, for the life of me, I've never been able to figure out what his expertise is that allows him to be invited. I get you bring the dinosaur guy to the dinosaur island. It's like, hey, can we just have a slick talking chaos guy come to the island? I was like, really? No,
Can we have?
There are no zoologists.
First off, okay, hang on. Can we please dispel the rumor? Can we dispel the myth that chaos theorists all look like Ian Malcolm? Please.
I don't want to.
Chaos theorists look like...
Get real. If there are chaos theorists at this point in 2020, he is, and they all have a Mrs. Voorhees shrine to Ian Malcolm. Yes. There's not one chaos theorist that is not saying things like penetrative and wearing leather jackets. They don't exist.
Chaos theorists look so much closer to us than they do like Ian Malcolm. Like, I am sitting here wearing shorts and a T-shirt that says, I am a beacon of tolerance. They are definitely
you put on
us,
pants
much
for the
more
pod.
than...
You fancy, huh? No, I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, you know.
He is the god of anyone who must be. I bet there are entire swaths of people that became chaos theorists just because of Ian Malcolm.
Well, I mean, Ian Malcolm, to me, when you think about it, like when you watch this movie and really consider it based on like our age demographic, Ian Malcolm is like the patron saint of nerd assholes everywhere. Like, if you've ever been around someone who knows way too much about something,
of Malcolm Gladwell. No way Malcolm Gladwell does not love Ian Malcolm.
I was laughing too hard. I moved the camera.
Now those two would make a great podcast. Malcolm on Malcolm.
Oh, that's
Penetrating Nature with
damn,
Malcolm
that is
and Malcolm.
a fucking pod. Penetrating Nature with Malcolm and Malcolm.
I'd listen. But no, this.
But yeah,
this,
but again, that is like, as I've gotten older, again, that is like my favorite scene in the movie. Is this? It's early on, and it's right before the raptor pit and that kind of stuff. But again, it's just a scene that has always struck me, not just because of dialogue, but also because it lays out the foundation for the movie itself, which is, how are you going to react to everything that's happening? When something bad happens in this movie, I think that's the best part about that scene, because it's a kind of scene that gets thrown in the cutting room floor, in my opinion, a lot of the time. And because Spielberg's smart enough, and he's a great director, again, of course, like, we all need to know that, but Spielberg's smart enough to know that you need that scene in the movie so that later on, when bad stuff starts happening, everybody in the audience is going to go back to that scene and think like, oh, well, was he right? Or was this just like, I mean, chaos of this it can't be like that. That seems like improbable. And I think that's the thing that I love the most, is that the improbability of like all the power shutting down, someone trying to commit corporate espionage, and there being a tour going on at the same time is so just like coincidental.
Or
but then
is
at the
it?
same time, it nearly.
Or is it?
All right, let's go. Let's hear the theory. Come on.
Do you want to dissect the T-Rex scene first, or
Come
you
on.
want to get into it? You want to get the T-Rex? All right, fine.
Boy.
Let's get to getting. Let me just say this, though. I think what makes Jurassic Park and the T-Rex scene so great is it is the best example of what I think CG should be used for. Wide shot, camera far away from the subject,
100%.
animate. Way up close, awesome fucking creature work and prosthetic work. Like the eyeball dilating. The cup of water. I mean, that scene is so iconic, man, in so many ways. But that's what the beautiful mix of that giant T-Rex.
Seamless.
Oh, beautiful. Fine, throw that out. You want to get into
it?
You want to do it? You want to get to getting?
Let's do it, man. I want to hear. I want to hear the theory.
Here's my theory.
You've kept me on edge. You wouldn't even tell me pre-show.
I don't even think it's a theory. I think it's a goddamn fact that John Hammond set this shit up on purpose because humanity needed to learn a lesson. I think John Hammond created this abomination of an island so that he could be the first one there and dissuade us from ever tampering with genetic power. I think this is a Willy Wonka punishing greedy children scenario.
What you're saying is Jurassic Park is basically the Hunger Games, correct?
No, I'm saying it's
like
Willy Wonka.
What it sounds like.
And I think the subject of the attacks are Tim and his granddaughter.
Tim and Lex?
I think Tim and Lex are who the lesson is for, because they're going to become trust fund douches. And I think it's time for Grandpa to lay the smack down, genetically speaking. I think this whole thing is a goddamn setup and a ruse. Let's break down some evidence.
So what you're saying is this is the most expensive version of King Lear anyone's ever experienced? Copy. All right, I'll buy that.
Rich white people. Again, this is the theme of Genetic Editing Month. It's always rich white people fucking everything up. This is what I'm talking about.
Always rich white people.
Richard Attenborough, who, by the way, gives a all-time performance, right? This is a great performance, is John Hammond. Here are some things that don't add up to me. John Hammond gives the flea circus speech, which is one of the best scenes in the movie. Unbelievable.
Yes.
Are you telling me that a man who is as gifted as him, built an empire, right? Harnessed this genetic power to make dinosaurs, is not aware of the irony of that story, cannot learn his own lesson from that story that Ellie Sattler learns within 1 second of him finishing the story? No. Here's what happens. Timmy's getting a little too into these fucking dino books, right? He's chatting up Thanksgiving like, man, this kid sucks, right? They're all trying to lock him in a Jeep at Thanksgiving. And he's like, who's this motherfucker? Dr. Grant. All right, I'm going to bring Dr. Grant and rope his ass in. Also ropes in Malcolm's book, blah, blah. So why is he roping in Grant? Because that's Timmy's guy, right? This will give it some oomph. Why does a guy who constantly says no expenses spared have Dennis Nedry running the entire park? How does that make sense in any universe that Dennis Nedry has that much control over the park? Why?
Well, is Dennis Nedry not the foremost authority? Isn't that the idea?
You were telling me you can't find someone else who's not a gigantic slob and covers their things in wrappers and Oppenheimer pictures? Like, what are you talking about? You don't think there's a better guy to run Jurassic Park than Dennis Nedry? Is that your contention?
Well, to be fair, I mean, there's probably better people than chain-smoking Samuel L. Jackson and Robert Muldoon, who literally is just sitting there in high socks.
This
saying,
gets back to my point,
they're entering the Tyrannosaur paddock.
So here's another interesting example, right? They're bringing these people in to get a look at the exhibits of Jurassic Park, the things that are going to make this island profitable for investors, right? John Hammond knows the InGen's coming, and that when InGen sees what he does, this thing is going to get monetized and ramped up, and it will be a big, big issue, right? John Hammond wants this motherfucking place closed down. Why does he bring them in a Jeep, a luxurious island jaunt, to go look at the herds, right? And then the first thing he does, he said, sit on the shitty ride and not see dinosaurs. You're telling me John Hammond or no one else ever rode that ride and was unaware of the fact that you could not see dinosaurs on the dinosaur ride? That slipped John Hammond's attention?
I wouldn't say it slipped his attention.
No, it didn't.
He just, perhaps he never took the ride.
You don't think that John Hammond, the creator of this island, didn't take the ride?
I'm playing devil's advocate. I 1,000% think he took the ride. But
sharpen your pitchfork. But tell me, does that even make sense?
No, of course not.
No, it doesn't. Right? Here's the other thing that doesn't make sense. Here's another thing. John Hammond gets on the ride, right? The ride that's going to explain everyone. John Hammond has lines? John Hammond's plan, billionaire creator of Jurassic Park, is to do a fucking 9 to 8 every day, interacting with Mr. DNA as a tour guide? He's built into the program. He has lines. Are you fucking kidding me?
I mean, I'll admit it was a little weird, but
ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I think that's but the park is still in a testing phase. It's not ready to be open to the public. I'm sure later on John Hammond will be like, I can't be here for an 8 hours.
He's like Colin Fallon, like Jurassic World. No.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's another thing.
That's probably what led to the hiring of Chris Pratt, hence Jurassic World.
Do you think it is a bit coincidental that John Hammond and everyone escapes the ride exactly as a baby velociraptor is born? When Dr. Grant's specialty, his dino boner, is velociraptors.
Okay. I mean, if we're going to do this,
no.
This is a different conversation.
Follow me down this rabbit hole, because this is wildly important. What does that lead to? Take me to the velociraptor paddock.
I understand. I understand the rabbit hole that you're going down, but this is also getting closer to thematic and narrative. Like, this is narrative punctuality. Like, the whole point of getting to Velociraptor is so that we get to the paddock, so we get to Muldoon, so we understand how important and how severe it is if the Velociraptors get out.
That's not what it's for. Because they have a brilliant shot in that scene, right? Is they are watching them mauling this cow, right? In this tiny little shit box with 3 Velociraptors. At one point, 8 Velociraptors in this tiny little fucking fence, right? And we see how big they are later. That's madness. Is Grant looks down in awe and horror at the conditions of these dinosaurs, his dino boner dinosaur. Grant is looking at him. Only Grant's face with this little fucking devilish smile because he knows he's fucking got him. He knows he's got him. Now, here's where the thing gets interesting, is because he himself faces the life will find a way threat of uncontrolled circumstances. He sets up this entire ruse with Nedry and everyone else so the park will fail, so that his trust fund grandkids will not create these abominations later in an uncontrolled fashion, right? But he, even himself, does not take into account that he could also be fucking betrayed. Imagine this. A giant tropical storm is on the way. They're on a ride where they've never seen dinosaurs. And then he goes, do we really have to bring my grandkids back in from the category 5, whatever's coming? He's playing it up. He's playing it up.
I really think that you're taking advantage of the storytelling technique we're using here.
Oh, no.
However,
I'm only using the evidence that was laid out before me.
In this elaborate King Lear of a story you're coming up with, I mean, yes.
But the entire movie.
I mean,
the
yes.
scene
All
where Lex is
evidence
eating
points
the Jell-O.
towards your point. Sure.
This is it. When Lex is eating the Jell-O, right? Her and her brother are just sitting in front of this opulent feast that, of course, they didn't earn. And as the Jell-O shakes when she sees the genetic whore enter, that's the lesson. That's what he was doing this whole thing for.
They survived the park in the wild. They earned Jell-O, at the least.
Did they? They earned Jell-O?
How fucking dare you? Tim almost died.
Also, isn't it weird that they have an electrocution fence that can't kill Tiny Tim? Why? It's just supposed to give him a good scare, a good scaring.
All right, so we're just doing this now. Like, we're just saying whatever happens.
I don't
like,
know.
oh, maybe.
If it weren't so late because of our goddamn time difference, perhaps I'd be more Ginsu sharp. Also, good reference from that era of movie.
So Willy Wonka. This is so Willy Wonka.
I
right
watched
now.
that movie, and I'm fucking telling you, Hammond staring at Grant at the Velociraptor pit tells you it's a fucking ruse. There is no. Here's a question, right? Worst case scenario, they have storms all the time, right? They've never had a storm that could knock out the electricity of the fence. Where's the goddamn military unit? Where's the military unit?
You are doing the you're doing the exact thing we always talk about not doing on this show, which is taking
exposing truth.
All you're doing is taking the incidental narrative and deciding to manufacture it into this version of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
How dare you?
I can do that too.
How dare you?
You can absolutely. Okay, do this same thing for Ian Malcolm then.
Ian Malcolm's there because he wants him to die. John Hammond wants him to be dead and eaten by dinosaurs.
Why though?
Because he says,
John
really
Hammond
hate that man.
Because he said, this is the rape of the natural world. I don't want to be a part of it. Copy. Okay, cool. So that means John Hammond's willing to risk his grandchildren's life to send them out into the park, nearly kill his grandchildren in the process, almost killing Ian Malcolm as well. Which, by the way, in the book, he died. They retconned it in the Lost World. But
Makes
either
sense.
way. So,
but no.
What you're saying is
that the grandkids must be tortured. It's important.
I'm not.
They show us Oppenheimer.
I'm not going.
Right? Timmy and Lex, a little fucking girl computer hacker that can already run Jurassic Park. Why is Jurassic Park using the exact system she's already trained in?
Computer hacker. She knows how to use the Linux system.
She says she's a hacker. That's her own designation. That's her own designation. She prefers to be called a hacker, Alex. It's the proper
I know. I saw the movie. Yeah, I saw the movie Hackers too and started typing faster. That doesn't make me a hacker.
Do you think it's weird that Jurassic Park is run on the exact same middle school program that she is training on? I don't. I think it's intentional.
I worked on a Linux system when I was in school in Indiana.
You're younger than me. There's no fucking way you worked on a Linux system. We played Oregon Trail and Number Munchers.
I'm a year younger than you.
Who are you kidding? Carmen Sandiego?
Yes. That too. Carmen Sandiego was a TV show when we were kids. It's very different.
You're telling me that this island is full of murderous, giant, predatory beasts.
What I'm saying is you are skewing the narrative to fit your theory.
Pitchfork this argument for me. You're telling me that these murder beasts could get out anytime a storm comes, and they're like, well, we got to go round up the murder beast. And they literally just have a guy in softball socks with a shotgun.
No, that's not what happened. Not any time a storm comes. The storm did not knock out the power system. Nedry did.
Right, but I'm saying a storm of a strong enough power could knock that out. If an actual massive
That's
tropic
never been established.
storm,
maybe it's quite weather resistant.
Weather resistant? What? I'm telling you. This is a fucking setup. That shot at the paddock clued me in. Even at the end, John Hammond, that smug little bitch, sitting on the helicopter as they fly out at the end of the movie.
Making this up as you go.
He twirls his staff and looks at that amber mosquito and his clever ruse and how he saved mankind.
Got it. So we're officially going Willy Wonka with this.
I'm just saying.
In that case.
I'm just saying it's a new theory. I just formulated it like 4 hours ago after some beers. But I'm telling you, I think.
Yeah, that's fucking clear.
How dare you? There is evidence. There is evidence to support
I'm telling you right now, I'm drunk doing this podcast, and I'm telling you right now, what you are saying makes almost no sense if this is the kind of if we're gonna make theories based on very incidental storytelling motifs, then in that case, sure.
No. It's not incidental
but that is not
motifs.
the intention.
Why do they not have locks on the doors? Because he wants Grant and them to be able to
What are you talking about?
escape.
They do have locks on the doors.
No, they don't. Grant walks right out of the Jeep. He wants them to get out. He wants them to see the ugly side of the park. I'm telling you, it's there. I'm going to have to crystallize this. I'll crystallize. Like if we did this pod 1 year from now, this would be an ironclad, peer-reviewed thesis.
Literally the worst theory you've come up with. It makes no sense. And also only works. It only works if you are using incidental storytelling.
No, because this is the thing. I don't believe in movie coincidence, right? You get one give. The give is that a guy made fucking dinosaurs.
All you're talking about is movie coincidences.
Yeah, exactly. This is a masterfully made movie. They're not just putting random shit like that in without it having a meaning. That's why it mattered, because Hammond, who thinks he's in control of this clever ruse that's going to get his park shut down and is going to fire up the genetic watchdog so that we don't get this. He even shows in the video there's a lot of John Hammonds, right? What he's really worried about is the human cloning phase. Right? So he's protecting us from all of this by alerting the watchdogs, by getting the park shut down. Right? He's getting out ahead of this fucking weapon that Trust Fund Timmy is definitely going to unleash upon us.
Which, by the way, happens anyways. So it doesn't even fucking matter.
No.
So whatever you're saying.
That's not fair. That is unfair debating because you're taking things from the sequels and using them to argue this movie to me.
You are literally treating this as Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and it makes no sense. All you're doing is using incidental logic.
Riddle me this. Could John Hammond have found a VHS copy of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
Really? Are we having this conversation? Okay, cool. By that rationale, could he have also found a copy of Harold and Maude? Who knows?
Yeah, well, if he was trying to,
if we're just
to marry the youngest dinosaur on the island, I would say that's a fair point.
Well, there you go. It's the same argument.
Are you saying that's why he makes all the dinosaurs girls?
I don't even know why we're having this fucking debate.
I'm telling you.
It's the same argument.
But what I'm saying is,
that is the crux of the problem right there. You're using incidental logic to support your theory, and it makes no sense.
First off, finger pointer. The Alchemist will decide if I have any merit. You guys will all go back and watch that, and you'll be like, oh, dude, there is something fishy with this guy. There is something fishy. I'm telling you, he is getting out. He sits and stares at Dennis Nedry's fucking Eminem-stained Oppenheimer picture, and he knows what he's got to do. He knows what he got to do.
What you're deciding.
But then he gets life finds a way, right? He gets chaos theoried because he did not expect it to go down this way. I don't think he planned for Nedry to shut everything down.
What you're deciding is to ignore the concept of hubris. Hubris in the face of Mother Nature, and decide that it instead is an elaborate ruse built by a man to teach his grandchildren a greater lesson about humility in the face of much greater odds.
That sounds exactly like what this movie
no sense.
How dare you? You think that, John Hammond
makes no sense.
You really think this is a guy who just thinks he's making a flea circus?
That is not what I'm getting at. I'll tell you right now, the reason the flea circus scene is more interesting, this is why I like the flea circus
scene. I love that scene.
Actually.
It's a great scene.
Because again, it's a fantastic scene. But to me, this is like the essence. And again, like we haven't even gotten to the end of this movie yet. And because it's critically unimportant based on the rest of it. You've all seen this movie.
Because now that you know it's a ruse, you're not so interested.
The reason the flea circus... Please. The reason the flea circus scene is so important, the reason the flea circus scene makes so much sense when you think about it. And again, I had to watch this when I was much older to really like gather it. Because when I was a kid, I was like fast forwarding through it. I'm like, just get to the fucking dinosaurs. But the reason this flea circus scene is so important is because what it demonstrates is that in the face of literal chaos, John Hammond still has the audacity to piss in Mother Nature's eye. What he sits there and says is that he created this ruse to begin with as a flea circus. What this is just bigger fleas.
That is so glib.
His ability to control.
So glib.
His ability.
Yes.
How dare you? The ability to control Mother.
I'm gonna give you something to chew on. The ability to
control Mother Nature is impossible.
I'm gonna give you a little goat in your paddock. You want it? Chew on this there.
Sure,
Angry
go for it.
Alex. There's a lost gospel of the Bible, right? And it. No,
fuck
listen,
you. Whatever you're about to say, don't even finish the sentence. Don't even finish the fucking sentence.
It's called the Book of Judas, right? And it's all about how Judas is actually the greatest disciple, and Jesus trusted him the most because he's like, you gots to be the one to betray me so that I can foist this shit on everyone for the rest of time, right? So that my mom can still ask me every Sunday.
So we're 1,000% done quoting the Bible.
First off, this isn't in the Bible. It's one of the lost books. The old whites of the time threw that shit out, dude. But this is the thing. So Judas is actually takes upon himself the mantle of betrayer, the mantle of hubris for so little money, because he is doing the greatest deed that we need to get this religion kickstarted.
The mantle of no. That is not hubris. Hubris is pride. Pride cometh before the fall.
What I'm saying is,
what he did in the context of what you're talking about, based on the Gospel of Judas, by the way, would constitute not pride, but much more humility. That is not hubris. Humility is very different.
But what I'm saying is John Hammond, like Judas, knows that someone's got to step up for Mother Nature. He is the white knight for Mother Nature, not some fucking R. Kelly of nature. He is the fucking shield of nature. When someone else is trying, when he knows future Timmy's going to come along and be I want to make sure that this is. I want to make sure that this is on. I want to make sure this is stated clearly on the podcast. Griffey just called John Hammond the R. Kelly of Mother Nature. Whoa!
That
no, I
is
said
a very
he's
important
the opposite.
thing.
If there was a guy who like dove in front of those kids and took the piss upon himself, That's John Hammond. That's John Hammond. First off.
Again, I think if you... Yeah, I think Book of Judas notwithstanding.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get so scholarly on you. I'm sure I'm interpreting that properly.
Sorry, I forgot you went to Holy Cross with Rudy. My bad.
I think I saw it on History Channel between Ancient Aliens.
You're just making my point for me now. Ultimately, but I think the flea circus scene, though, is, again, a very important scene because it is about the hubris John Hammond has in the face of Mother Nature. Because not only that, he has this conversation. He talks about how it was all a fugazi. It was all fugazi. It was all just nonsense.
It is.
And then he doubles back to Sattler and says, but this time we know. Now I know. I know how to fix it. I know what to do. I mistrusted Nedry. I did the wrong thing. He admits it. Therefore, he knows he did the wrong thing. If there's one person in the history of movies who never admits to doing the wrong thing, it's fucking Willy Wonka. So I would say in that case, if you use the flea circus scene as your thesis, your theory is pretty much blown.
First off,
because admitting humility and admitting...
I'm using the inhumane treatment of the non-free-range velociraptors as my thesis, first off. Second, okay, I'm not going to relitigate this whole thing with you. The Alchemist, no. This dog hunts. I got a scent and there's meat on the bone.
This dog hunts.
Like a velociraptor and T-Rex, I got to hunt. I found the truth of this fucking ruse. I'm just saying there's meat there.
Beyond comprehension.
No, it's... What? He would never hire John Hammond. His entire defense... You would never bring your grandchildren, who you love, to an island of murder dinosaurs and say, this guy with the tall wool socks is the only thing between us and death. That's ridiculous.
Again, all you're doing is using incidental logic from the movie to support your theory, which, while normally I enjoy deeply, I gotta tell you, I think is bullshit this time.
Like Slender Man, who started as a story and then we birthed him into reality, that's what John Hammond did. He fucking even fooled all of us for so long. But now we know.
So what you're saying is that Griffey is, in fact, the creepypasta of this entire thing. Copy that.
No! You are so close-minded. You are Ian Malcolm over there. You're just like, I'm only here to shit on things and drop water on your girlfriend.
That's right.
I'm telling you, watch the scene
What you consider
Watch the scene at the paddock and the way John Hammond looks at Grant.
What you consider a Willy Wonka, King Lear storytelling device, I consider the rape of the natural world.
So penetrative, this theory. So penetrative, this theory. No, this movie, if you want to accept the, the sheeple version as you do, or if you want to be like me and hunt, you want to get on the scent and hunt for the truth, it works either way. It works either way. It's a And again, what is so great about this movie, and I love, again, I think this theory holds true. I think 2 years from now, I'm going to blow the fucking lid off this case, right? I'm just doing the basic I'm just a gumshoe who just got the scent right now. But I'm on my way. I'm coming.
That's right. You and the flat earthers, you got it, man.
I will make you a guarantee right here. I will blow the lid off of my discovery before the flat earthers do. That's goddamn guaranteed.
Cool. What's the date today? What's the date today? Today's the 24th. Copy. Got it. I'm good. May 24th. Griffey says he's blown the lid off this thing.
I'm just saying I cracked it. Here's another scene I love. Nedry. Not because of the slide whistle. That's a weird scene, right? Slide whistle.
Which, by the way, is a great audio cue.
Well, it's the best slide whistle use in all-time movie history. But what I love about that scene, again, and what this movie does so well, is all of the dinosaur scenes are actually just great character moments. Nedry talking to that Dilophosaurus is just A+ genius to me. It's amazing.
It's wonderful. It's incredible. Yeah, that scene, I mean, I'll tell you the other one that I think is. It's not just because it's scary. It's magnificently paced for a movie like this too. Is Sattler running across to the control paddock to like actually turn everything back on? That
weird. They don't have a guy who works in the
she,
electrical shack. That's really strange. That's
just stop. Stop. Incidental. He probably left on the boat to go home after.
That's not an essential job on the island. Electrician.
Stop.
When I get
now, Nedry had it all automated.
I'm sorry. When the dog gets a scent, I'm on it.
Stop. Whatever that was, cut it out. Oh my God, I can't believe you just did that.
Are we saying that's an official nix on the hunting dog motif for the pod? Noted. I'll add it to the list of things I'm not allowed to do on the show anymore.
But yeah, that to me is another great scene. It's so wonderfully paced. Actually, like, if there's anything that reminds me the most of Jaws in that movie, it's that fucking scene right there. Particularly when like she's turned the power back on and the fucking hand comes out. Oh my God, dude, that is one of the great reveals because it's bullshit. It's just like some dead guy's arm. Poor Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
Samuel Jackson, by the way, smokes cigarettes down to the fucking filter in this movie, and I have so much respect for it.
That's true smoker shit, though. That's true smoker stuff. The scene that might be one of my favorite little iconography moments. Yeah, I mean, to me, the scene that is obviously the most comparable to Jaws is the T-Rex, because it operates so effectively for a long time without seeing the dinosaur. It's really amazing. Yeah. I mean, the twang of the string that made the ripple in the cup. I mean, that's an all-time movie moment, right? That's got to be a top 5 most iconic moments in this movie, and it's just a cup of water on the dashboard. That, to me, is power of visual
top 5 most iconic moments in movie history, period.
Yeah, I mean, just that little ripple, right? To me, that's every bit as iconic as the barrels. It's the barrels in Jaws, right? Like, those
100%.
moments are perfect because it's this unseen horror. It's one moment where our reality is distorting and we know something really fucking scary is coming. I love that scene. I also love in that scene, too, the T-Rex scene. It made me laugh today because I was like, how long are Grant and Malcolm just going to watch that fucking Jeep full of kids get mauled? There's a version of that movie where Grant's like, good, fuck that kid. Like, that Jeep is getting attacked for like 5 minutes, it feels like, before Grant's like, maybe I'll try a flare. I don't know.
Grant tries the flare, then Malcolm does the flare and ends up getting the lawyer eaten. That poor guy was just in the toilet, hiding out. He probably would have survived.
The blood-sucking lawyer?
Well, yeah, he sucks. But
well, no, he ran out on children. He committed a sin. He deserves to get eaten. That's how movies work. You commit a sin, you get eaten.
Absolutely. I don't disagree with that because we've disagreed on a lot on this one, but nevertheless, I
just wish you weren't totally making yourself the village rube for all the internet to hear, because they're all going to hear this thesis and be like,
for sure.
Griff's got the scent. He's got the scent.
It's true. I bet you, the flat earthers, the people who deny the moon landing, everybody will be like super on board.
Lump me. I have evidence for mine. That's the difference. Mine has evidence.
Do you?
You're telling me
that
a filmmaker is what's the word I'm looking for?
Adept?
Yes, that's a great word. As Steven Spielberg is just leaving random tidbits everywhere throughout this whole movie.
No, hang on. Let's pump the brakes. Random tidbits? No. You're picking up on random tidbits and deciding that they're important.
I'm just picking up what's been laid down for me.
You bet.
I am Hansel and Gretel leading the breadcrumbs back to society.
You, that guy who fired a rocket in a cornfield and died because he thought he was going to try to prove that the Earth was flat.
I am so
peas in a pod as far as I'm
uninterested in you comparing me to these lesser conspiracy theorists. I put at least some time into this theory. Is there any other things about Jurassic Park that we both adore that we missed on this talking? We don't deserve Laura Dern.
I mean, is there anything?
I feel like there was a big gap between Laura Dern in this movie and thankfully where she is now. The best. Yeah. The cast is phenomenal.
I mean, there's really not a lot else to say. Like, this movie is one of those that's just like this close to perfect, man.
Yeah.
Like, I've never had a better time watching a movie than watching this movie. Like, this is one of those things that I try to watch multiple times a year simply because it is so good.
Yeah.
It is so wonderful and it brings you such pleasure. And again, like, we're sitting here talking about, conspiracy theories and that kind of thing. Like, that's the point of the movie, though. Like, to me, this is what makes it so great, is like we can have all these different ideas about what makes it so wonderful. But at the end of the day, we can all agree that collectively this movie is one of the greatest movies that's ever been made.
Yeah, and I always wonder if it's so, like, if I'm so biased because it's one of the, like, 3 to 5 most important movies of my life. But what I think is, I mean, it's a movie.
I don't think you are.
It literally is a movie about a guy who makes a fucking dinosaur park. Right? Like, that just doesn't sound like the kind of movie that goes on to be so widely loved as this movie has. And I think it's a great testament to all of those other elements that just make it this fucking unbelievable journey. I mean, I think the characters really are just unbelievably good in this. And it's hard to say because, again, I go back to being a kid and seeing this movie, and it just, like, it reminded me of, I don't know, like Fantasia, right? Where Mickey sees the sorcerer and he's like, I want to do that and have that power. It was the first time I watched a movie, so utterly loved it, and left the theater saying, oh my God, someone made that. I have to figure this out, right? Because it shattered my mind. When was this, 94? Yeah, I was 10 years old. And it was just like, holy shit. And there was never a movie, like, I think we all have, like, the movies, right? So I remember this in the theater being a watershed moment. I remember getting my, the first, like, bootleg VHS of Mallrats someone recorded me. And you're like, oh, dude, guys like me make, like, we all have that journey, right? Of the movies that change you and change your relationship with movies. And this is just that fucking film to me. And yeah, I mean, there are parts of the movie, like, to this day, I've never understood why they need the car sliding down the tree scene. You're like, that has nothing to do with dinosaurs, genetics, ethics. That's not how that would work. It's a weird scene, but it also shows Grant being heroic with Tim. So you're like, fine, okay.
It does.
It's one of those weird, it's still so well done. It doesn't make sense to be in the movie, and it's still so well done. I love it.
But like, it gives Grant a chance to be heroic. It gives you a chance to sympathize with Tim, who's been, like, annoying up to that point.
Yes,
and
he
then
has.
You have that moment,
Hasn't he, Alex?
I still get choked up. Shut up.
That little bastard.
But you have that moment where, like, and I still get choked up when you just, like, I threw up. I'm like, oh, this poor kid. Like, he's been through, like, the fucking ringer. He didn't deserve it, fucking Hammond.
I'll bet you.
If you subscribe to that.
I'll bet you. He comes out a better man on the other side. I love that at the age of 35, a movie that I so adore and have seen so many times completely unfolded for me like Pinhead's puzzle box today. And now it's like I have a whole new favorite movie to love.
Yeah, good for you. That's awesome.
That's it, guys. That's it for Jurassic Park. For now, I might have to come back when I have this thesis fully boiled.
Part two.
I hope you guys love Jurassic Park as much as we do. I'm assuming we all love Jurassic Park, man. It is one of those movies, too. You're like, I've never met anyone who said they hated Jurassic Park. There are some movies like that. Like, maybe it's not your favorite, but, like, hate it, I've never heard. So, guys, as always, please take a second, leave us a rating and review wherever you find the pod, especially on Apple Podcasts. That helps us out enormously, and we appreciate it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's Nerd Alchemist, plural with an S at the end. You can email the show, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. And get at us on all your socials, man. Let us know that the dog found the scent Let us know what movies you want
Stop.
me to crack
Stop it
open
now.
next. And that wraps up the Pod Edits Genetics Month. What an awesome month of movies this has been. We're not
this was
quite
pretty
ready
killer,
to announce next month, but we do have some really fun stuff coming up, and we will let you know on social media as soon as we have it. Thanks again, guys. This was a great night, and I'm glad that we were able to solve this case together for the film Alchemist. I'm Josh Griffey.
I'm Alex Dandino.
Alex Dandino, a close-minded rube.